This Mishnah is the fifth of the set of pairs. We mentioned that there were sets of pairs who were the leaders of the generations, and we are now heading for the fifth set, which the fifth set is Hillel and Shammai, probably the most famous of them. And let me just put that on the screen for you as soon as I find it here. Um, This technology is driving me crazy. Okay, so Hillel v'Shammai kiblu mehem. Hillel and Shammai received the tradition from them, being Shemaiah and Avtalion, who were the previous generation. Hillel Omer, Hillel says, Heve mi talmidov shel Aharon. Be a student of Aaron, be a disciple of Aaron. Ohev shalom v'rodev shalom, loves peace and pursue peace. Ohev es habrios, love other people. V'umekarvan la Torah, and bring them close to the Torah. Yeah, that's a very famous Mishnah, a lot in there. We'll just start off a little bit about who Hillel and Shammai. They're, again, as I mentioned, the fifth of the set of pairs of leaders. After Hillel and Shammai, we're going to go into single leaders after this. And actually, it's going to be really a lot of them descendants of Hillel. Interestingly, although it tells you that remember Hillel and Shammai were, one was the Nasi, the political leader, one was the head of the court. Interesting, Hillel's original partner was not Shammai. It originally was someone named Menachem. However, this individual Menachem ended up taking a job with the king, and Shammai ended up taking his place. Um, Hillel is probably one of our most famous sages, right? People, we have a lot of things named after Hillel. Also important that we don't confuse Hillel and Shammai themselves with what we call Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, the house of Hillel, their students. Because in the Talmud, we know there are many disputes, many differences of opinion between the students of Hillel and the students of Shammai. There are very few. There are actually only three differences of opinion recorded between Hillel and Shammai themselves. So when there are 316 disputes recorded between Hillel, the Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai, their students, many times throughout the Talmud. You can't go too many pages without finding where there's a difference of opinion in the Talmud. Hillel is known for, besides being his leadership, Hillel was very poor. Hillel used to pay half of the money he earned, he would pay to get into the to the study hall, because at that time you had to pay. There was this famous story where he didn't have money, and he went up to the roof. He wanted to listen in through the skylight, except that it was very cold and it was snowing, and he was so engrossed in listening, he didn't realize that it snowed on top of him, and he was like frozen into the thing. And the next day, it records that this is when he was still a student. Shmaya, who was the previous generation leader, and he said to his partner Avtalion, "What happened to the light? We can't see anything." And they found that Hillel was up there, and they had to kind of revive him by through the with a fire to warm him up, and it was on Shabbos. Another important thing about Hillel is Hillel was not automatically becoming the leader. Originally, the leader at that time was a group known as Bnei Beseira. They were a certain group, and was a story where it was Erev Pesach. That was going to be on Shabbos. Now there's a lot of different laws when Pesach, the Erev Pesach comes out on Shabbos, and there were different laws. They didn't know what, they weren't sure. They were going through some of the laws, and they didn't know exactly what do you do about the Pesach offering, the Korban Pesach. And but they didn't know what to do. And they were told that there was this sage Hillel who came from Babylon, who came from Bavel, and he had studied by Shemaiah and Avtalion, and he would know the answer. And that it turned out, yeah, he did know the answer, that you do bring the offering even though it was Shabbos, that basically the Korban Pesach overrides Shabbos. And they appointed him as the leader. They said, "Oh, you know more than we do," and they appointed him as the leader. And there came up a situation where there was a discussion going on about what do you do if you in order to bring the Korban Pesach, it's Shabbos. Now that we know you don't carry in a public domain on Shabbos. That's why we have Eruvs, because those make it into a non-public domain. And what do you do if you didn't put your knife? If you didn't bring your knife to the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash before Shabbos, how do you get your knife there? So Hillel also did not know the answer, but he said, you know what? The Jewish people, they are like descendants of prophets. They'll figure out what to do. And what the general public, what they did was they put the knife inside the wool of the on the sheep, right? The sheep has a lot of wool and it's fluffy. They stuck it in there, and the wool and the sheep basically carried the knife by itself, and they didn't have to carry it. And that was another where you see the Jewish people, they know the customs, they knew how to do it. Finally, and another thing about Hillel was known for his humility and his patience, and many stories in the Talmud about that, and in one in particular where somebody had made a wager that he can make Hillel angry, and he did a whole bunch of things to drive Hillel crazy, and Hillel stayed calm and did not get upset at all. And the end, the guy started yelling at him because he cost him so much money because he wouldn't get angry at him, and so Hillel, who is known for his humility, is the one who's talking about loving other people. That person who's humble is going to be more likely. That's a characteristic you need in order to be able to get along with other people. So we're running out of time, but we'll do a couple of things about the Oheves Habrios, to be a disciple of Aaron, and to be a disciple of Aaron HaKohen. We know Aaron HaKohen was also the epitome of someone who pursued peace, right? He was an Ohev Shalom and a Rodev Shalom. He loved peace. He pursued peace. And being a disciple of Aaron means you are going to not only say, oh, he's doing good things, but you're going to also build it into you. You're going to be able to make yourself like Aaron. You act like Aaron. Do actions that are in that many in terms of bringing peace between people. A couple of famous things about Aaron, maybe you're familiar with these, that when people were arguing, what he would do is he'd go to one of the two people and he'd say, that other person, he really wants to make up with you. He doesn't want to continue the fight. And the person would say, you really? Oh, well, okay, maybe I'll consider making up. And then he'd go to the other party and he'd say the same thing. And say, oh, yeah, he wants to make up? Okay, and then once the other person was willing to make up, right? The person is willing to, then, okay, I can give in if the other person is willing. I'm not going to be first, but if he's willing to, okay, right? And in that manner, Aaron was able to make peace between people in many disputes. There's also another famous story with Aaron that he actually went so far as once to let a woman had to spit in his eye. They say that there was something where her husband was very angry and he made this crazy vow that I'm not going to do something until you spit in the eye of the Kohen Gadol. And Aaron, he just let himself be like a doormat, so to speak, in order to make peace. And he was known also for making peace between husbands and wives, which, by the way, is why when Aaron died, it says everybody mourned him. Whereas when Moshe died, even though maybe everyone did mourn him, but the Torah's writing is that it seems like only like the men mourned him. Whereas in Aaron, the description is indicating it was such an overwhelming, because everyone felt so close personally to Aaron because of the fact that he went out and tried to make peace between people. I think we're going to hold it there for today, and tomorrow we'll get into the loving of each person, and also to